Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Om Ganana Antva Ganapati Gambavamahe Kavim Kavinam Upavashravastramam Jeshtarajam Brahmanan Brahmanaspata Anushrinnoti Visveda Sadhanam. Om Mahaganadipataye Namaha. Om Keshwaya Namaha, Om Narayana Namaha, Om Madhvaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Vishnuve Namaha, Matsudana Namaha, Trivikrama Namaha, Vamana Namaha, Sridhara Namaha, Rishikesha Namaha, Padmanabhaya Namaha, Damodara Namaha, Sankarshnaya Namaha, Vasudevaya Namaha, Pradyumnaya Namaha, Niruddhaya Namaha, Purushottama Namaha, Dokshaya Namaha, Narasimhaya Namaha, Achyutaya Namaha, Janardhanaya Namaha, Upendraya Namaha, Hare Namaha, Sri Krishna Namaha. Sri Krishna Namaha, Sri Krishna Namaha. Om Haim Bhrim Klim Chamundai Vichai. Om Haim Bhrim Klim Chamundai Vichai. Om Haim Bhrim Klim Chamundai Vichai. Hari Om Namo Bhagavate Namaha. Suta Maharshi keep explaining other rishis and Saunaka Rishi at Naimisharanya. Now we are getting further lecture on Ashtanga Yoga and its practice and its rules and regulations is explained in Devi Mahabharata also. When Devi showed her Virata Rupa, all the Devas were bewildered and they became surprised. So they were worried and frightened. So Bhagavati ended that Virata Rupa gone back to her normal self, which by itself was fantastic. Himavanta embarrassed himself as to how he could recall her physical form from time to time. Mahadevi suggested that the only plausible way to retain her image would be through yoga practice. That's how the yoga practice was explained in Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. The basic step in the yoga is to integrate the Jivatma, that is our Atma, self Atma, with Paramatma and win over the Arishad Varga. Arishad Varga. Shad means six. There are six enemies. What are the six enemies of a human being? Number one is the lust. Number two is the anger. Number three is the greediness. Number four is infatuation. And the next one is ego and envious, jealousy. Then one follows yama, the tenfold practice of what are the yama he has to practice? There are tenfold practice. These tenfold practice of ahimsa or non-violence. What is the slogan? What we say in Hindu Dharma? Ahimsa Paramo Dharma. Ahimso Parama Dharma. So that means it is a very fundamental that we are not supposed to hurt any other living people or living beings or animals or birds or any living beings. So that is ahimsa paramo dharma. Non-violence is the first niyama. Yama are tenfold. Among 10, this is one. The second one is satyam. Satyam means always truthfulness. We have to tell truth only and nothing but the truth. Then you will have no problem. And the next one is asteyam. Asteyam means non-pilfering of mind and deed. The next one is brahmacharya or celibacy. And then the next one is mitahara, means eating as less as possible or eating essential, eat enough to live. What is essential to live? Eat. That's what mitahara. Mitahara means, it is explained in Bhagavad Gita also, mitahara. So when you are hungry, you go for a dinner or lunch, you go with fast and go and sat in the dining table. But after eating the meal, you are not coming out of the seat with the same speed. Then you are eaten more than what you are supposed to. So mitahara is something which is not going to change the speed you are getting out of the chair and get out of the dining table. As it should be same speed as when you came to sit on the seat for a meal. That's equal speed is the important thing is mitahara or frugal eating. Frugal eating means you eat enough to live. That is frugal eating. And then bahya antara shuchi. Bahya antara shuchi. Bahya shuchi, external cleanliness. Antara shuchi is internal cleanliness. So both external and internal cleanliness of the body and mind. And then the next one is naitikata or morality. In other words, daya or mercy, kshamata or pardon, stitiratha or stability, niyama, the tenfold practice of tapasya or atonement. These tenfold practice of tapasya or atonement. Astikyata or unflinching faith in the God, Vedas and Devas and virtue. Santushti or contentment. So you need to be contented what God has given to you. Danashilatha. The next one is charity for good causes. Danashilata or a charity for good causes is important. That's why it is good causes he has written. Puja or worship of Almighty. Siddhanta acharana. Practice of established way of life percepts. Free or refrain from evil acts. You need to refrain from evil acts. Shraddha or fortitude in performing acts of faith. When you are doing puja, you need to have a shraddha, fortitude in performing acts of faith. Japam or repetitive and silent utterances of mantras. It could be Gayatri mantra or it could be other mantras or prayers and homams. Or daily oblation, sacred fire. Agnihotra we say. 5 asanas or postures. Padmasana is one comprising of crossing the legs and drawing the feet of legs on the opposite thighs and simultaneously catching the toes of the right leg with the right hand and right round the back and vice versa and sitting upright with ease. As this posture is practiced only by expert yogis, it would be sufficient to cross the hands on opposite thighs without stretching the hands from the back. Swastikasana are a place the soles of the feet completely under the thighs and sit erect. Bhadrasana are placing the two heels on the two sides of the two nerves of the testicles near the anus and catching the two heels by the two hands at the lower parts of the testicle and sitting at ease. Vajrasana or the diamond posture consists of placing the feet on the two thighs and placing the fingers below the two thighs with the hands and finally Virasana comprising sitting cross on the hams or hollow area behind the knee in placing the right foot under the right thigh and vice versa, sitting straight and at ease. The next step in yoga is pranayama. Pranayama comprising the three processes of breathing. Puraka or breathing in by Ida or left nostril and recite Om 16 times. So the next step in yoga is pranayama. Pranayama has got 3 steps. Puraka, Kumbhaka and Rechaka. In Puraka breathing in by Ida or left nostril. So breathing in by the left nostril. So you can close the right nostrils and breathe in through the left nostril and recite Om 16 times. Then Kumbhaka or retain the breath in Sushma Nadi and reciting Om 64 times, and Rechaka or exhale by Pingalanadi or right nostril by reciting Om 32 times slowly. Pranayama may be done as many times as possible, say 12 times to start with and increase the number further to 16 and so forth. This needs a very big practice. It is not possible to learn without somebody to guide you. 16 or so forth, pranayama could be sagarbha or any mantra of one's choice, or vigarbha, or just recite the pranava mantra Om. When one does pranayama fast, one would sweat out, and that is good practice. But that is for beginners only. When the exercise is performed faster and longer, then one gets body adjusted shivers, which is of middle order. The ultimate is when the practice reaches the peak, then one would rise in the air. Pranayama follows pratyahara, which means allowing senses to travel to specific objects spontaneously and forcibly reversing the travel from the objects back to senses. One has to hold pranavayu or life breath, providing air in one's body system at 12 places, example toes, heels, knees, thighs, genitals, navel, heart, neck, throat, soft palate, and nose, middle of the eyebrow or brukuti, and from these finally to the top of the head or brahmanadi. This practice is known as dharana or holding up the prana vayu at each organ. Therefore, the yogi has to execute dhyana or meditation by clearing the mind and concentrating one's choice of Almighty God. The ultimate peak is known as samadhi or bliss, which would be in the form of samprajnata or savikalpika. Savikalpika, when there is the consciousness of who is the doer, what is the doing, and which is the deed or the actor, action, and act. But in all these cases, the target is only one, that is eternal Almighty God. Simply stated in other words, Svikalpika Samadhi, Savikalpika Samadhi distinguishes the Atma and Paramatma, seeking to unify one to another. The Nirvikalpika Samadhi sounds like Aham Brahmasmi, or God is me. Mahabhagavati thus described in brief the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, or the eight-limbed yoga practice, with Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. I am only telling in brief. The further explanation of each line is given in the Bhagavata Purana, Devi Bhagavata Purana, but it takes long time to finish. Nadis and chakras. Next item is Nadis and chakra. Devi Bhagavati describes to Himavanta about physiological cum psychological analysis of human body, especially of various nadis, life webs and chakras. The word nada means streams. In the context of yoga, nadis are channels of kundalini energy as also connectors of nerves or snayus. The subtle yoga channels of energy from mind as well as chitta or consciousness of the self or through various physiological cords, vessels, tubes, nerves, muscles, arteries and veins. There are 350,000 nadis in human body. In Ayurvedic medicine says, Ayurvedic Shastra says, there are 350,000 nadis in human body. Mentioned 750,000 nadis, but the principal nadis are 14. Sushumana Nadi, Ida Nadi, Pingala Nadi, Gandhari Nadi, Hastajaiva Nadi, Yashaswini Nadi, Pushanadi, Alambushanadi, Kuhunadi, Shankini Nadi, Payaswini Nadi, Saraswati Nadi, Varuni Nadi, Yashodhara Nadi. The most important nadis, however, are the most three above. Sushmana is at the center of the spinal cord and is the nature of the moon, sun, and Agni or fire. It originates from sacral plexus or network of nerves at the spinal base up to the head of the top. It is from Muladhara chakra and terminating at Sahasrara chakra. Normally, Sushmana Nadi is inactive except when pranayama is performed. Ida Nadi is to the left of Sushmana, representing moon providing nectar like energy, and Pingala Nadi is to the right side of Sushmana, providing male-like power. There is a cobweb-like formation in the innermost area of Sushmana Nadi called Vichitra or Chitrini Bhulinga Nadi, the center of which is the seat of Icha Shakti, energy of desire, Jnana Shakti, energy of knowledge, Kriya Shakti, energy of action. The middle portion of the Bhulinga Nadi has the luminosity of several suns, above which is the Maya Bija Haratma, representing the sound like Ha. There above is Kula Kundalini, representing serpent fire of red color. Outside the Kundalini is the Adhara Nilaya of yellow lotus, color denoting four letters. Va, sa, sa, sa. This is the base of Muladhara. This is the base or Muladhara supported by 6 lotus formations. Beyond the Muladhara is the Manipura chakra of cloud lightning, color comprising 10 lotus petals representing 10 letters. Da, da, na, tha, tha, da is Anahata Nati. Da, da, na, pa, pa. This Manipadma is the dwelling spot of Vishnu. Beyond the Manipadma is Anahata Padma. Anahata Padma has got 12 petals representing the Ka, Ga, Gha, Ma, Cha, Ja, Cha, Ja, Ja, Ya, Ta, Ta. In the middle is Vanalingam Nadi, giving out the sound of Shabda Brahma. Thereafter is Rudra Chakra, which represents 16 letters. It is in the place that Jivatma gets purified into Paramatma and hence known as Vishuddha Chakra. Thereafter is Rudra Chakra, which represents 16 letters. A, I, U, Rai, Rai, Lai, Rai, E, A, I, O, A, R, Aha, Aha, Aur, Aha. It is in this place that Jivatma gets purified into Paramatma and hence known as Vishuddha Chakra. Further beyond is Ajna Chakra. Ajna Chakra lies between the two eyebrows where the self resides, representing 2 letters Ha and Ksha, one commanding another or Paramatma commanding Jivatma. Even above is the Kailasa Chakra, which yogis call Rodini Chakra. The central point is the Bindu Sthana. In other words, a perfect yogi has to perform Puraka Pranayama, fix the mind on the Muladhara lotus, contract and arouse Kundalini Shakti by lifting by Vayu between the anus and genitals. Pierce through the one commanding another, or Paramatma commanding Jivatma. Even above is the Kailasa Chakra, which yogis call Rodini Chakra, and the central point is the Bindu Sthana. In other words, a perfect yogi has to perform Puraka Pranayama, fix the mind on Muladhara lotus, contract and arouse Kundalini Shakti by lifting by Vayu between the anus and genitals. Pierce through the Adi Swayam Linga through various lotus petals and lotuses as described above, reach Sahasrara Chakra or 1000-petal lotus and Bindu Chakra by the union of Prakriti and Purusha. Could there be another example of the breaking of barriers as delineated in Lalita Sahasranama as follows. In Lalita Sahasranama, there is a sentence like मूलाधारैक निलय ब्रह्म ग्रंथि विभेदिनी मणिपूरांतरुदिता विष्णु ग्रंथि विभेदिनी आज्ञा चक्रांतरालस्ता रुद्र ग्रंथि विभेदिनी सहस्राराम्बुजाधारा सुधा सुरभिवर्षिणी तटिल्लता समरुचि षट्चक्रोपरि संस्थिता महाशक्ति कुंडलिनी बिसुतंतुनीयसी. This is the one of the shlokas in Lalita Sahasranama comes like that. Indeed, it would be rather difficult to practice yoga on the above lines and hence would adopt Avavyava Yoga limb-wise, Avayava Yoga limb-wise. Initially, as described above, overcome Shadvargas, that is, Shad means 6, Vargas means enemies, 6, and practice Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, and then after lapse of many weeks and months of practice, one could succeed in the above discipline. This is very, very difficult to practice for a lot of people, and slowly, step by step, you can learn and practice. It takes time for the beginners. Brahma Jnana, the Sutta Maharshi is telling about Brahma Jnana to other rishis in Naimisharanya. Having outlined the precepts of yoga, Devi Bhagavati was requested by the king Himalayas to enlighten him as to how best to acquire Brahma Jnana, so that the knowledge thus gained, albeit peripherally, be harnessed to take steps towards her. Indeed, Brahma Jnana is not simple to acquire. Even to illustrious Maharishis, Devatas, and even Trinity, since its wisdom is higher, deeper, and far more mysterious and perplexing than the orbit of realization of anybody, let alone human beings. When one refers to Brahma Jnana, it is not to be misconstrued as the knowledge of Lord Brahma of the Trinity, but the highest of all, that is, Supreme Brahman, who is Devi Bhagavati herself, whom there is indeed nothing there beyond. That particular Brahma, who is eternal, imperishable, all-knowing and all-powerful, is the Aniku and higher than the highest, or the Nirguna Brahma, who does take physical forms at her will. It is that target that one should hit by utilizing the bow of meditation and the arrows of Om mantras. It is that mystic Brahman who is the converging point of three effective paths: Shravana, that is hearing; Manana, cogitating by way of mental absorption, Manana; and Dhyana, mental concentration by way of meditation. It is that Antaryamin Purusha. It is that Antaryamin Purusha, the innermost soul, that one has to seek, and that is what Brahma Upasana all about. The Atma is a bridge to Paramatma. Atma is a bridge to the Paramatma. Atma or Antaryamin is encased within physical frame, which is tied up with Paramatma. Atma or Antaryamini is encased within physical frame, which is tied up with 750,000 nadis, life webs, fastened to the navel as the center of the wheel, and this Antaryamin resides in the heart. Prajna or inner consciousness is a link to Maha Tattva or Prakriti in one hand and Paramatma on the other hand. When human beings could maintain balance of the three qualities of Sattva-guna, Rajasa-guna, and Tamo-guna, or when the five bonds of samsara of normal life are blunted if not served, then Jiva is qualified for the entrance test for further stages of enlightenment. The five bonds are avidya or ignorance or lack of inclination. And the second one is linga deha or the raw physical form. Paramachada prakriti bond or severe snapping of impulses or reactions whatsoever. Kama, bond, or the pull of desires, and karma, bond of fate. The jnani, pursuer, pursuer of the enlightenment, reaches thus the threshold of the universe and passes by Simshumara, literally meaning that infant killer, or the dolphin-shaped sea mammal, or the constellation of North Pole. Ursa Minor, where he becomes devoid of passions far beyond gunas, tattvas, and bonds, and enters in the golden sheath or the cosmic egg. From there lies a sheet or a continuous path of infinite effulgence, where there are no directions of northeast, north, east, west, or south. No time measurements, no space dimensions, but only Brahma consciousness or Hiranyamaya Kosha. Bhagavati Devi thus defined the Brahma Jnana as a supreme knowledge of herself, which is neither in the heavens, nor in Satyaloka, or nor in Vaikuntaloka, nor even Kailasa, but in oneself, who transforms the self or the Atma into Paramatma. Finally, the destination is within oneself and nowhere else. With the heart likened with the lotus within, in this connection, Mahadevi emphasized the role of a guru, spiritual teacher, who is superior to one's own father. For the parental combination provides birth, but the spiritual instructor endeavors to break the cycle of births and deaths. By providing Brahma Jnana, of course, one's father is competent to teach Brahma Vidya, other things being equal. In the context of imparting Brahma Jnana, Mahadevi herself provided an anecdote to Himavanta. A Muni named Dadyam prayed to Indra for instructing him Brahma Jnana. Indra agreed on one condition, that he should never impart to anybody else, and that is his head would be cut off if the Muni did so. But Ashwini Devata brothers approached the Muni after a few days and assured the Muni that his head would be pre-cut and kept safe, and meanwhile a horse head would be fixed in place of the original head. From the horse head, the sage might teach Brahma Jnana to the Ashwini brothers, and once Indra cut the horse head, then the original head of the sage would be replaced. So the next topic is Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Punya Kshethra, holy places of pilgrimage. Having explained Brahma Jnana, Devi Bhagavati provided alternative routes of realizing her. Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. Of these, the Bhakti Marga is the simplest and easiest for devotees to follow. It involves the least pain of the body and enables facile concentration on the target. However, this too could inflict bodily hurt if it aims doing adverse reactions against others in a typical tamasic manner. If a rajasic kind of bhakti is the objective to fulfill one's own desires, there is nothing unnatural about it. But the pure sattvika kind of nishkama karma, nishkama bhakti, selfless bhakti, is indeed the ideal, as it gives an instant equation with the object. In fact, it leads to parabhakti, or highest form of dispassionate devotion, which has the pure feeling of seva and sevaka, master and servant, seva and sevaka, without even targeting salvation. That kind of devotion is contented with whatever prarabdha has decided for the devotee, and despite that there is no other feeling excepting the intoxication of pure love without strings, which is similar to Jnana Yoga. This extreme devotion, as Devi Bhagavati defines, is on the analogy of gold converted as an ornament, or bhakti in peak position tends to turn into Brahmavata, Brahmatma itself, Brahmatva itself. Among the ways of such supreme bhakti, Mahadevi cited prayers, japas, repetitive recitation of Devi's various manifestations, group chantings of Devi's glories, group chanting of Devi's glories, bhajans, hearing of Puranas, mantras, hymns, and music, dance, and performances, observing fasts, executing vratas, functions related to pujas of specific manifestation of Devi, and so on. Another manner of bhakti is to visit places of pilgrimage, holy temples and rivers for darshana and worship, pilgrimage of Tirtha Yatra. As Bharatavarsha abounds temples and holy rivers all across its length and breadth, Mahadevi mentioned a few illustrative names. But when one's heart is clean, each and every place of the karma bhumi is a holy place of worship. Kolhapura, on the banks of the river Panchaganga in Maharashtra, is a Mahalakshmi's famous temple situated. The deity is also known as Karavira Nimishani Ambabai, and the city is known as Dakshina Kashi and a Shakti Pita also. Maitrapura in Sahyadri Mountains or Western Ghats, Mahur or Mahugada in Maharashtra is also a Shakti Pita, the seat of Renuka Devi and also the birthplace of Dattatreya. Tulijapura is the abode of Tulija Bhavani, again in Maharashtra and Shakti Pita. And next to it is Saptashranga with the temples of Hingula and Jwalamukhi, the temples of Shakambari, Vaishnodevi, and on Indrakiladri, Vijayawada in Andhra Pradesh. Bharmari, hilltop of Kausani town near Almora, Uttarakhand. Sri Rakta Dandika, Arunachala Pradesh, and Sri Rakta Dandika, Arunachala Pradesh, and Rakteshwari near Katil, near Mangalo, and Durga Varanasi and Kanaka Durga temple at Vijayawada, Vindhyachalavasini, Central India, Annapurna, Banaras, Bhima Devi, Vishnu Devi, Vimala Devi, Puri Chandrala Devi, Kausaki Devi at Kausaki River, Kosi River, Nilamba River, Nilapravarta, Punya Kali in Nepal, Meenakshi in Madurai, Sundari at Vedaranya, Tamil Nadu, Ekambaram, Kanchi, Bhuvaneshwara near Purushottamata Kshetra as Parashakti, Mahalasa in south at Malari, Yogeshwari, Virata, Bagala at Baidyanath, Manidvipa as Bhuvaneshwari, Yoni Mandala, Kamakya at northeast, Gauhati in Assam, Pushkara as Gayatri, Chandika in Amarasa, Amaresha, Pushkarekshini at Prabhasa Kshetra in Gujarat, Lingadharini at Naimisharanya, Purohuta in Pushkaraksha, Rati at Asiddhi, Dandini at Chamundi, Bhuti in Bharabhuti, Nakuleshwari at Nakula, Chandrika in Harishchandra, Trishula in Japeshwara, Sukshma in Amritakeshwara, Shankari in Ujjaini, Sarvani in Madhyama, Margadhyani in Kedara Kshetra, Mangala at Gava Kshetra, Sthanapriya at Kurukshetra, Swayambhu at Nakula, Ugra in Kankal, Mahananda at Attahasa, Bhimeshwari at Bhima River, Bhairavi at Bhadrakarani at Gokarna, Bhadra at Bhadrakarnaka, Utpalakshi at Suvarnaksha, Sthatunivasa at Sthanu, Kamala, Kamalaya, Mukeshwari at Mukoti, Kali in Kalanjara, Dhavani in Shankukarana, Sthala in Sthalakeshwari, and finally Parameshwari Rileka in the lotus hearts of Jnanis. Recitation of the above names of Devi in the presence of Brahmanas during Shraddha days, especially Pitru Devatas, would be pleased to bless. There are certain vratas whose to be performed by men and women, stated Mahadevi to Himavanta, as she would be enormously delighted. Some illustrations are Anantarkriya Vrata, Ananta Kriya Tritiyaka Vrata, Rasa Kalyani Vrata, Ardrananda Vrata, to be performed on Tritiya or the third of Hindu calendar. On a Krishna Chaturdashi, that is the fourth day after the moon fall, every Friday and Tuesday too, one might observe fasting till the twilight time of the evenings and perform worship to Devi Bhagavati and terminate fasting. Two worshipping by the dusk time by observed similarly. On the third day, Shukla Chaitra, the doll festival is of significance, and Shayanotsava of Ashada Purnimasi, the Jagaranotsava of Kartika Purnimasi, Rathotsava of the third of Shukla Ashada, Damanotsaya, every Chaitra and all the austerities of Karna are all dear to Devi Bhagavati. In all these vratas, puja of Virgin Kumaris as though she devotee, although the devotees worship Devi herself would gladden her. In the context of worship, Devi Bhagavati gives two principal approaches were mentioned. One is the external ways of worship and the other is internal ways of worship. The former kind is twofold, again Vedic and Tantric. The dharmic route is as per Vedic precepts and meditating Devi Bhagavati with karma or sacrifice, with jnana, knowledge, and bhakti or devotion. Mahadeva himself created Tamasika Shastra like Vamana, Kapalika, Kaulaka, Bhairava, and so on. He also created 5 agamas: Shaiva Agama, Vaishnava Agama, Saurava Agama, Sattva Agamana, and Ganapatiya. The Varnashrama Dharma method is followed according to the prescribed principles and worship Mahadevi accordingly. Another route in the external worship way is to follow the routine of waking up in the early hours of the pre-dawn, pray to Mahadevi in the form of Kundalini fire situated at Muladhara, traveling up to the Sushmanadi after morning ablutions, and Sandhya Vandana as also Agnihotra. Agnihoma settle down after asana, sankalpa, bhuta shuddhi, purification of body elements through a respiratory control, and perform matrika nyasa. The nyasa is to be executed by arranging the seed mantra of Rileka. So we will continue the external, internal ways of worship tomorrow. It's getting late. नमोस्तु अनंताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादाक्षरभा सहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषाश्वते सहस्रकोटि युगधारणे नमः सहस्रकोटि युगधारणे नमः आकाशात् परितं यथागतसागरं सर्वदेव नमस्कारः श्रीकेशं परिगत्यो नमः सर्ववेदेषु यत्पुण्यं सर्वतीर्थेषु यत्फलं तत्फलं पुण्यमाप्तिवासनात् वासुदेवस्य वासन्ते च त्रयं सर्वभूतनिवासोऽसि वासुदेवमुस्ते कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत्